Are you ready to rumble? Bible Sleuth here, and I'm coming to you a little bit differently. I come with the following question. What should we be doing as Christians with all this craziness going on? Well, I think this should be addressed. So I'm creating a playlist series to do just that. So first off, you might pause this video, grab a Bible, and quickly read through Daniel chapters 9 through 12 to understand where I'm coming from, but I will give a brief summary. In verse 20 of chapter 9, the angel Gabriel comes to Daniel with a vision and explanation of a 70 weeks prophecy. Daniel understood it, but was so upset and needing more clarity that we see him in chapter 10 fasting and repenting and mourning for 21 days. And that brings us to Daniel 10:12. Then he said to me, "Fear not, Daniel, for from the first day that you set your heart to understand and humbled yourself before your God, your words have been heard, and I have come because of your words. The prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days, but Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me. For I was left there with the kings of Persia, and came to make you understand what is to happen to your people in the latter days. For the vision is for days yet to come." You know, I've always been fascinated by this scene in Daniel 10. What's interesting is that Daniel was extremely upset by what was told to him in chapter 9, which describes a prophecy of the future, a prophecy that has been the cause of disagreement since. Look what the angel says to Daniel in verse 20. "But now I will return to fight against the prince of Persia." To fight? We're talking battle, waging war. It's violent. I have a few questions. Does the 70 weeks strictly refer to the time frame when Artaxerxes would order the rebuilding of Jerusalem? Some think so. How does one explain, though, the anointed one that is to come and then is cut off, as found in verses 25 and 26? Doesn't that sound like Jesus? Also, how does one explain the prince that follows who wages war and makes a strong covenant, most likely with Israel? This covenant lasts for 1.5 weeks, but this prince also seems to be responsible for abominations and destruction and desolations. It kind of sounds like the Antichrist to me. I believe chapters 11 and 12 give the answer. I also find it interesting that the last thing said to Daniel in chapter 12 is this: "But go your way till the end, and you shall rest, and shall stand in your allotted place at the end of the days." In other words, don't worry about this, because you won't be around when this happens. So it must have been pretty horrible. I am not scholarly enough to explain these visions. Furthermore, I am not a news source that connects current events with biblical prophecy. I will link some channels in the description that provides more solid evidence on these topics. I rather want to address something of extreme importance. I pointed out chapters 9 through 12 of Daniel only to say, I believe we are here. What I want to do in this video and videos to follow in this playlist is discover what the Christian's response should be. We cannot be content to just placing a supporting phrase on a billboard or church social media page about Israel. I will say that if your church has joined the ranks and are on the front line of the war, praise God. However, for those who haven't, wake up! We need to be alert. We cannot be deceived thinking that the war between Israel and Hamas is not important. Another question is, could it be that the war in Gaza is a physical display of a greater ongoing spiritual war that we cannot see? Truth is, I believe it may be just that. The amount of hate and anti-Semitic protests going on globally attests to the fact that Satan is not taking it lightly. And I keep hearing that some of those hate feelings have infiltrated the church. However, the Jewish people have and will always be God's chosen people. They were not replaced by the church contrary to some beliefs. Rather, the Gentile church, a wild olive branch, was grafted in to the branch. We share in the nourishing root, according to Romans 11. It goes on to warn that if we are grafted in, then we can be removed. So technically, our family in Israel is hurting. It should be a cause for us to hurt as well. So let's get back to Daniel 10, 12 through 14. I find this passage interesting because I believe we get a snapshot of a realm that surrounds us and something we're generally unaware of. The thing I want to establish is that if wars are happening around us in the spiritual realm, which was alluded to in Daniel, similar to what is happening in our own world, then we need to be in the battle. Paul talked about warfare in Ephesians 6, 10 through 18. It starts out, "Be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil." But look at verse 18. "Praying at all times in the Spirit with all prayer and supplication. To that end keep alert with all perseverance, making supplication for all the saints." What was Daniel doing when he was distressed? He was fasting and praying. Years ago, they used to call that praying through. We also had what was called prayer chains. People would commit to a specific hour each day so that prayer was going on 24 hours, nonstop. Remember, our kinfolk are hurting here and around the world. "For where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there I am with them." But I don't know how or what to pray for, one might say. Learn to pray in the Spirit, as Paul said in Ephesians. "For those who live according to the flesh set their minds on things of the flesh, but those who live according to the Spirit set their minds on things of the Spirit." Romans 8:5. Likewise, the Spirit helps us in our weakness. "For we do not know what to pray for as we ought, but the Spirit himself intercedes for us with groanings too deep for words. And he who searches hearts knows what is the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes for the saints according to the will of God." Romans 8:26 through 27. Daniel was a prayer warrior, which is what we should be doing too. This is how we get into the fight. So, are you ready to rumble?